The Third Testament, Chapter 17, Part 1. The New Way of Worshipping God. The Evolution of Worship Services. How slowly mankind walks toward perfection in their worship of God. Every time I come to you with a new lesson, it seems to you too advanced for your evolution. Understand that I give you an entire era to come to understand it and to integrate it into your lives. The victims that you offered upon the altar of Jehovah were received by Him, but it was not the most adequate form to elevate your spirit to the Father, Shiloh. It was then when I came to you as Jesus to teach you the divine commandment, which says to you, love one another. I say to you today that the lessons I taught you during the second era through the deeds of Jesus have been altered at times and misinterpreted on others. For that purpose I have come, as I announced, to clarify my truth. My sacrifice in that period prevented the sacrifice of many victims, and I taught you a more perfect worship. My new manifestation of this period will allow mankind to understand that the symbolic forms should not be adopted without first analyzing their significance, since they are only a representation of my lessons. Prayer is the spiritual medium that I have inspired in man, so that he may communicate with my divinity. That is why it manifests in you as a yearning, a necessity of the Spirit, as a refuge in times of trial. Who does not know true prayer, does not understand the joys contained in it, and does not know the source of health and goodness to be found in it. They feel the impulse to speak to me and present their petitions, but lacking spirituality. They feel that the offering of sending up only their thoughts is so meager that they instantly look for something material to offer me, thinking that with that they will flatter me more. It is in this fashion that humanity has fallen into idolatry, fanaticism, rites, and external worship, drowning their spirits and depriving themselves of the blessed liberty of praying directly to their Father Shiloh. Only when the pain is very intense, when the pain is at the limits of their human strength, does the Spirit, forgetting ceremony and knocking over idols, frees himself and arises to cry from deep within, my Father Shiloh, my God. Do you see people occupied making war on one another in this materialistic time? Yet I tell you, even in the middle of these wars, many men have found the secret of prayer, that which is born of the heart and comes to me as an urgent call, a protest as a plea. When they see the requested miracle happen, they know that no other way exists for speaking to God than with the language of the Spirit. Prayers by rote, empty of devotion and faith. O my children of all faiths, do not destroy the most noble sentiments of the Spirit, or try to satisfy it with external practices and worships. Behold, if a mother does not have something material to offer her beloved and small child, she holds him against her heart, blesses him with all her love, smothers him with kisses, gazes at him tenderly, covers him with tears. But never does she try to deceive him with empty acts of love. How can you conceive that I, the Divine Master, approve of you satisfying yourselves with practices lacking all essence, truth, and love, with which you try to deceive your spirit, making it believe that it has been nourished, when in reality, each time it is more ignorant of the truth? Prayer is a blessing which God has granted to man, so that it will serve him as a ladder to elevate himself, as a weapon to defend himself, as a book to educate himself, and as a healing balsam with which to anoint himself and to heal all illness. True prayer has disappeared from the earth. Men no longer pray, and when they try to do it, instead of speaking to me with the Spirit, they do it with their lips, employing useless words, rituals, and material idols. How are men going to observe miracles if they use forms and observe practices which Jesus did not teach? It is necessary that true prayer return to men, and it is I who have come again to teach it to you. Teach your brothers how to pray. Make them comprehend that it is their spirits which must communicate with their Creator, that their prayers are almost always mere cries of the material form, an expression of their anguish, proof of their lack of faith, and of their mistrust or lack of obedience to me. Make your brothers understand that they do not need to mortify or lacerate, their bodies to move my spirit and awaken my pity or charity. Those who seek suffering or bodily penitence do so because they do not have the slightest idea of which offerings are most pleasing to me, nor do they have any idea of the love and mercy of your Father Shiloh. Do you think it is necessary for me to see the tears in your eyes or the pain in your hearts for me to have pity on you? To believe so would be to attribute to me hardness, insensitivity, indifference, and selfishness. Can you imagine these defects in the God you love? How little care you have taken to know me. And it is because you have not educated your minds to think in accord with the Spirit. Leave the earth for a few moments today, and come to me in spirit. For many centuries, humanity has been mistaken in its manner of praying, and has therefore not strengthened or illuminated the path of their lives with my love. For they have prayed with the senses, and not with the Spirit. Idolatry, to which man is so inclined, has been like a poison that has not allowed them to taste the spiritual delights of inner prayer. How much misery men have dragged behind them simply from not knowing how to pray. And yet, my disciples, it is natural. What spiritual strength can a human being have to resist the trials of life, if they do nothing to come closer to the source of life that exists in my spirit? They seek me in the abyss and in shadows, even while they could elevate themselves to find me on the heights, in the light. Oh, if the men of this time understood the power of prayer, how many superhuman works they would perform. But they live in a time of materialism, in which they try to put even the divine in material form in order to be able to see and touch it. True prayer. I bless those who pray, and the more spiritual the prayer, the greater the peace I make them feel. This you can understand easily. For he who needs to prostrate himself before images or objects to feel the divine presence cannot feel the spiritual sensation of the Father's presence in his heart. Blessed are they that have not seen, yet believe, I said in that time, and again today. For he who closes his eyes to that which is of this world, opens them to the spiritual. And he who has faith in my spiritual presence shall feel and rejoice in it. For how long will this humanity deprive its spirit of the joy of feeling me in their hearts through direct prayer, or, what is the same, by means of spirit-to-spirit prayer? Until my light illuminates the lives of men, and they learn the truth and understand their errors. This is the time for prayer and meditation, but prayer free of fanaticism and idolatry, and of meditation that is serene and deeply immersed in my divine word. Every hour and every place can be appropriate for prayer and meditation. Never in my teachings did I tell you that there were places or times destined for prayer. Your spirit being greater than the world it inhabits, why confine me to such limited images and sights when I am infinite? The greatest reason for the earthly troubles and spiritual poverty of men is their imperfect form of prayer. It is for this reason that I tell you that this knowledge must reach all humanity. You do not always pray with the same preparation, and therefore, you do not always experience the same peace or the same inspiration. There are times in which you succeed in becoming inspired and elevating your thoughts, and there are others in which you are completely indifferent. How could you always expect to receive my messages in the same form? You should educate your minds and even your bodies to cooperate with your spirit in moments of prayer. The spirit is always willing to communicate with me, but it requires the goodwill of the material body in order to elevate itself in those moments and to free itself of everything which surrounds it in its earthly life. Make an effort to achieve true prayer, because whoever knows how to pray carries in himself the key to peace, to health, to hope, to spiritual strength, and to eternal life. The invisible shield of my law protects him against all temptation and dangers. He will bear an invisible sword on his lips to defeat as many enemies as might block his path. A ray of light will light his way amidst the storms. A constant miracle will be at his reach whenever he needs it, whether for himself or for the good of his brothers. Pray, practice that sublime gift of the Spirit, for that strength shall be the one to move the life of men of the future, those who will be able to communicate with me from spirit to spirit. Parents will become inspired through prayer in order to guide their children. The ill will gain health through prayer. Heads of states will resolve their great problems seeking light with prayer. And the man of science also will receive revelations through the gift of prayer. Disciples, in the second era, my apostles asked me how they should pray, and I taught them the perfect prayer, which you call the Lord's Shiloh and Christ prayer. Now I tell you, be inspired by that prayer, by its meaning, its humility, and its faith, so that your spirit communicates with mine. For it will not be your material lips that pronounce those holy words, but your spirit that speaks to me in its own language. Do not let it be only your lips that call me Father, for many of you tend to do this by rote. I wish that when you say, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name, Shiloh, those words come from the purest part of your being. Meditating on each one of the phrases so that you are afterward inspired and in perfect communion with me. I taught you the powerful, masterly word, that which truly brings the child closer to his father Shiloh, upon pronouncing, with respect and sincerity, with elevation and love, with faith and hope, the word Father, distances disappear, and spaces are shortened. For in that instant of spirit-to-spirit communication, nor is God far from you, nor are you far from Him. Pray therefore, and in your hearts you will receive great benefits of love.